Yeah.
So there's been a lot of conversations about who's going to be next up for LeBron after LeBron James leaves and retires. Who's going to be the quote unquote face of the NBA? And I've noticed the people who they have been pushing have been like, well, it used to be Ja Morant until he started playing with guns.
Yeah.
And now, as of recently, it's been Anthony Edwards. And to me, I feel like it's really insulting because when this individual name gets brought up, it kind of automatically gets shunned. But he's an American-born player. He has a championship. He's the best player on his team. And he's got a, fairly successful baby mama.
I feel like if you're talking about a LeBron type, then Anthony Edwards automatically already does not fall into that.
Well, I'm not saying a LeBron type. I'm just saying the next face of the NBA. Following a LeBron is...
I feel like you have to keep that golden standard, though.
I mean, you would think, but...
Because Jordan... Who was that guy before LeBron? Was it Kobe?
It was more. It was Kobe and Shaq. You can say those two.
And both of them had like in front of the cameras, from what Kobe regular people know. That was after a while, right?
No, it was like
that was in the beginning of his career.
Yeah, that was like 2004.
I don't know when that happened.
So he was like 8 years in his career. He played 20.
All I'm saying is like most of the guys who have been in this position have had like shinier character. Anthony already does not have that. He got a baby mama.
Multiple.
I'm talking about this. He got a pregnant baby mama on the internet cursing him out on a daily basis. He got people telling horrible stories about him. There's proof of him telling this girl to get an abortion.
Multiple women
to get an abortion. There's proof of him being like, I don't fucking care that you're pregnant. Get rid of it. Like,
he also got fined not too long ago where he was, and this is where I think this is important to talk about character. And this is going to go into my bigger point that I want to say, but this is where it talks about character. So at one point, this is like early in his career, he is videotaping some gay guys outside of a bar, just chilling. Like they just minding their business. They not even doing, and he calls them derogatory slurs and stuff out their name. No reason, unprovoked. And so people will look at that and be like, oh, he's young, he's a kid. But it's like, you're saying that he's young, he's a kid. He wouldn't post something like that. That don't mean that's not how he felt and how he feels about certain people. And that's not the first time he's said other things that was homophobic. And to me, I think it's goes to show when you have shows like FSN1, First Things First and ESPN First Take talking about, oh, can Anthony Edwards be the face of the league and shunning someone like a Jayson Tatum? I think that has largely to do with colorism. I think the fact that
this is where I think you're
no, that does. I think it has a larger to do with colorism because when we are identifying leadership or things that we admire in men, it works in reverse for women. It's not a darker skin gets more critical. A darker skin actually improves you in looking more masculine.
I don't think that's the case because I think if LeBron had retired like a regular human being, maybe like 5, 6, 7 years ago, then Steph would be the person who would like very naturally fill in his shoes. But I think Steph is a little bit further in his career now, so I don't think he.
Well, Steph had his run as being a face of the NBA, but the reason why I'll say and it's a good point that you brought that up. He's an anomaly in that situation because if you look at him compared to the prior people, he's only 6'3". Granted, that's tall amongst people, but not when you're in the league. So he looks a lot smaller. Plus, he's also an outstanding shooter.
He changed the entire NBA as people who listen to sports, who watch sports say.
So that's what I'm saying. So for him to have that much of an impact, that's a large part of it. He was able to supersede the fact that he looks like he looks.
I have 2 questions for you. Have there been light-skinned men, and I'm not being shady, who have performed at this caliber in the NBA like Steph Curry has, like LeBron has, like Kobe has?
There has been top players that were light-skinned.
Oh, like who?
Let's see.
Who like could have been face of the NBA worthy?
But see, that's different.
No, that's what I'm asking you.
I'm saying light skin and face of the NBA worthy is just a lot different because a lot of guys get hurt. Like when it comes to that, it's
like who had that run? Who could have been it? That proves your point that they're choosing the dark skinned men over the light skinned men, and colorism is in play here. Like what light-skinned men have been looked over in the NBA to be the face of the NBA, other than like now, Jayson Tatum.
See, now that's where it gets kind of a little more difficult with in regards to the trend. There is other people who it's happened to, but they played in smaller teams. So that you could say that's more of an argument.
Yeah, so I don't think that is an argument.
No, it is. It definitely is.
If they're on smaller teams, then
the ideal.
Why are they not on bigger teams?
Because that's when maybe they got drafted at. Like they don't get control.
Why didn't they eventually get there?
Because if the people are still giving you more money and that's where you want to play it.
Okay, well, circumstance then, I guess.
But also too, you got to understand, it's hard to say what you're saying is because a lot of things go into being a prototype. So a lot of guys get looked over early on before they even get the opportunities to get pushed the way they do, because a lot of guys, listen, a lot of guys, they look for that. When white guys are, especially early on in the 90s and stuff like that, early 2000s, they were looking for tall black players. Now they're looking for players who generally they kids play. So that's why now you're seeing the rise of more interracial players who are light skinned, because now it's becoming more frequent. Those, when they were going to these scouts, a lot of those guys got looked over unless you were super tall. And if you're super tall, that usually, unless you're Shaquille O'Neal, brings you out of the running to be a top player.
Yeah.
So we might see it with Wemby, but he's not American. So
my second question is, who is the better player of the two? And Anthony.
It depends. You got, okay, the most tangible way you can measure it is by their accomplishments. He's been to the finals twice. He's won. Tatum. He's been to the finals twice, won it once. So he has his championship. He's been leading his team for a longer time, but that's just because he's been in the league longer.
And he's been in one team, right? Or
Both
he's been for the Celtics for the whole time.
Yeah, Celtics the whole time.
Okay.
So then also too, you just got to think about what he did when he was a rookie, when Kyrie wasn't there anymore. So I would say Tatum has had the better career. And then when you go on to the fact we go off the court, not only just with the LMA being his baby mama, but he's also, when he had his youngest son, he's been like the pinnacle of being a good dad in front of the cameras.
I did see that show that we watched with the basketball player. Yeah, he was a great father, like very much like a family man.
So my thing is like he's put the money into the imagery, he's with a historically great team. Everything should be you pointing him. No, it should be no question on why you should point it to him, and everybody keeps just shunning him over. And I
agree with you that it should be him, but I don't know if it's. I don't know if I could agree with you.
I can even add more points where people just they criticize the league for saying we got too many light skinned kids in there. Like I've literally heard people say there's too many biracial kids in the NBA. I mean, yeah, players in the NBA. Where that look, I know it sounds like I'm being a crybaby when you hear a light skinned guy saying this, but that's the truth of where people.
He's fully black, by the way.
They assume,
remind y'all every time.
That's what people assume when they see a lighter skinned individual or a lighter skinned male. They assume a lesser aggressiveness or a lesser masculinity. People
do that. I'm not going to take that from you. That is a part of what men deal with when it comes to colorism. Black men are perceived, dark-skinned men are perceived as more aggressive. Light-skinned men are perceived as more emotional and this and that. And that has nothing to do with skin color whatsoever. So that is definitely a thing. And I'm not going to sit here and say that's not a thing. But I'm not 100%. It's probably coming into play, but I'm not 100% sure if that's like the main thing that's keeping Jayson Tatum from being the face of the NBA and making Anthony Edwards the face of the NBA. I just don't know why he would be if we are taking like character and lifestyle and all of these things into play too.
I think that does go into play. I think a lot of people they're being a little disingenuous and they're trying to kind of push those under the rug and act like they're not on the internet everywhere. I think that goes into more of the colorism, the fact that they're overlooking all of these obvious flaws in this man's choices and sweeping the guy who has every check mark you could make. And you're just skipping right over him and saying, oh, no, well, his game is just as exciting as Anthony Edwards. He shoots threes. He dunks on people. Like, it's not a 1-for-1, but it's just as exciting.
And he's obviously a winner.
Yeah, he just won last year. So again,
not too hard on the eyes.
Just relax, show. What's up?
That's all I said. I can't ever don't say that someone's not ugly.
Okay. Don't be getting upset when I start talking about
you be talking about Supreme Milk and the shit's his eye.
Yeah.
And talk about titties and nipples and asses all over this podcast.
And then I don't want no conversations when the camera's off about how it made you feel and all this other stuff. I don't want none of that. That's all
As
I
long
ask.
as you don't go crazy. If you say that someone's not hard on the eyes, I'm not gonna fucking have a conversation with you
I'm
about
gonna
it.
say that's a bad bitch.
You can say that. I be saying that on here too.
Well, I mean, it's because it's a girl. That don't matter.
You can call men bad bitches if you want to. I'm not holding you back.
I'll pass on that. But no, it's going on in the NBA, man. Real colorism out here. I'm trying to change. I'm trying to speak light to it.
Are you done?
I'm never really done, but
There's one more thing
I'll concede my
to
time.
get into.
What's up?
I just need to get into the nigga shit a little bit before we